Hey, so in this training video, I'm going to be talking to you about the competition analysis basics and the BuyBox possession rates. With all of the stuff that you're learning in this little mini course, should equate to some really good foundation level knowledge to help you with deal analysis and knowing what to look out for, and then also getting to grips with BuyBotPro. Obviously, if you want to know more about BuyBotPro and the other features and stuff, please feel free to check out the remainder of our YouTube channel and our other training playlists as well, where we go a bit more in depth and obviously talk about some of the other features as well and some of the advanced ones too. So if you want to know anything more about it, all of that information is available on the BuyBotPro YouTube channel. Another sort of basic one I would say is the competition analysis, and hand in hand I would say the BuyBox statistics table. Now let's start off with the competition analysis. So first and foremost, this is giving you an insight into your competition. So it's going to list the top 10 sellers. The reason why it's doing you the top 10 in this instance is because these are really the main sellers you want to concern yourself with when you're analyzing details about them. What you can do though, if you really want to find out a bit more about the other sellers on the listing, is just tap across and it will show you the other ones as well. However, if you tap recent, this is basically all of the sellers, right? And that's updated hourly. So sometimes you might have a few more pages because obviously it might not have updated for a time yet, because as I say, it's updated hourly. Now this information is from Keeper. So it's all cached information, whereas the other option I was on is live. So that's directly from Amazon as it stands right now. So this is cached information. It's all basically down to what Keeper has kept. And obviously older information isn't as useful. We want the most up-to-date information in this regard. But if we do want to see what's been going on in a grander scheme of things, then we can get that information from the recent. But if we tap live, obviously that's what I would say to mostly concern yourself with, these top 10 sellers, and if you really need to go through and check out some of the other ones as well. So it's color coded depending on what type of seller they are: merchant fulfilled by Amazon, merchant fulfilled Prime. So it's all color coded. It's the stock levels, so how many they have in stock, and this can be an influence on who wins the buy box. Obviously not always, and it's not a definite, but it can have some influence. The price that the seller is selling at, and if it is in bold, you can see a breakdown of what price they're actually selling the item for and how much their shipping is. If we were to sell at any of these prices, this is the profit and ROI we would achieve. Please bear in mind this is more of a generalized profit and ROI. For specific profit and ROI, please consult the details section in BuyBotPro, and if you're really curious as to how much you'd make by selling for these prices and what the breakdown of those costs are, you can enter that into your sell price. We have the delivery period, and obviously this is another contributing factor as to who wins the buy box. So there's all manner of factors that influence that. There's no actual set guide on what contributes towards winning the buy box, but through experience and very good educated guessing and just sellers' observations, we know that stock levels have some influence, delivery date has some influence, because obviously Amazon want to get that product to the customer as fast as possible. Price will have some influence. Whether you are FBA or FBM will have some influence depending on the listing. There's all manner of things that are taken into account there, things like account health, positive feedback, the amount of reviews you've had and so forth. It all gets put into a pot, stirred around, and basically how well you've run your Amazon account is what will affect the buy box, as well as those other aspects I mentioned. So there's so many things to it, but some of these things are definitely the more important factors as to the influence of the buy box. So obviously if we can see someone where their delivery date is way super far into the future, because sometimes it'll be like a week or 2 weeks, or sometimes even longer than that, which is crazy, but it can be longer than that. And we know that we can get the item to the customer in a much faster period of time, then we know we have that slight advantage over that seller. And obviously we have the reviews, the total amount of reviews, and the positive feedback percentage. Again, another contributing factor. If we aren't really bothered about merchant fulfilled because we're FBA, so our main competition is FBA, Amazon, merchant fulfilled Prime, we can tap Prime and it will basically just show us those entries in that competition. So it's up to you how you want to view that. At the bottom, you've got the total amount of stock that these top 10 sellers are basically selling. So all of this added up. Total amount of prime sellers, total amount of merchant fulfilled sellers on the listing. So got a nice little summary there. And this is really useful as a safe help and just like have that insight into other sellers and what they're doing on the listing. What you can do, which is, I wouldn't say it's a secret, but what you can do, which is kind of like sneaky-ish, is if you tap on the seller's stock level, it will take you through to their store where you can see a bit more about every single item they're selling via the quick look box and in the manual sourcing accelerator. And the bonus that you have with the MSA right here when using it on another seller's storefront is you actually get a bit more info about that seller's store and the top brands and categories that they're selling. So it's really good for inspiration as to what seems to be doing quite well from that seller's like perspective, because obviously this will be for a reason. Obviously where sellers get stuff from, their criteria is going to differ for every single seller. So just because you see a high product count in Nintendo for this seller doesn't mean it will necessarily work out exactly the same for you. But obviously there must be something to it in quite a few cases. So it could be that there's some Nintendo based sales in certain stores and so forth. So it's really good for generating those kinds of like leads and giving you that inspiration. So it's a really powerful thing to have for storefront stalking. Now, if we look at the BuyBox statistics, obviously to trigger this, we just need to select a day range and it will populate this table. This will give us an idea of who's had the most possession over the BuyBox in whatever period of time. So currently, the last 30 days, 90 days, 180 and 365. So we have the possession rate, so how much they've won the BuyBox, who that seller is, if they're FBA or not, the positive feedback rating, the amount of reviews they've had, and the last time that they won the BuyBox. Now, if we can see something basically like this, where we can see that there's numerous percentages split up amongst lots of sellers, that means the BuyBox rotates around fairly regularly on this listing, which is a good thing. Ideally, we want that. If it's more so FBA sellers that are winning that item, that's a good thing. If it's more so FBM, that's a good thing, depending on what kind of fulfillment method you're going with. If we see that, say Amazon, for example, have held it for like 95% of the time, that's not a good thing, because it means the BuyBox isn't really being rotated around very much. And if we can see that sellers have had it at different time points, so like even if it's someone that's say down here that's had it for say like 8% of the time, if that's said just now or like an hour ago or something, we know that even though there is like a smaller percentage there, it's still rotated around fairly like nicely. So the BuyBox statistics, I would say, is definitely another vital one to look at whenever you're doing an analysis, just so that way you get that understanding of how the BuyBox is moving on the listing and what your chances can potentially look like of winning the BuyBox yourself. Hopefully this helps.